Good evening. Welcome to the Tuesday evening update on September 15th, 2020. As always, these thoughts are mine alone, and I'm making decisions regarding each system. Please refer to the National Hurricane Center, your local weather office, and your local officials here. Well, courtesy of tropicaltidbits.com, you can see this wide shot of the still very busy Atlantic. We have Hurricane Sally here approaching the North Gulf Coast. We have Hurricane Paulette here exiting the scene and getting carried off by a trough. We have tropical storm, soon to be Hurricane Teddy here. We have a weakening tropical storm Vicky here, and another area of interest here that is several days away from impacting land. Anything that is east of 60 west on this shot is not currently a significant threat to land at this time, and we will talk about Teddy as it approaches, but we will not be talking about it right now. Right now, we're going to be talking about Sally here that is approaching the northern Gulf Coast. If we look at visible imagery today, you can see that the storm has been kind of gradually organizing. You can maybe see hints of an eye trying to clear here as convection has become a little more symmetric today, and the bursts around the eye have become more symmetric and have been kind of wrapping around this nascent inner core that has been struggling to develop almost all day until recently. It was able to close off an eye, and now we are seeing a tightening of that eye. Very gradual because this is such a broad eye here, and this has been dealing with southwesterly shear almost all day, and this has been preventing this eye from closing off. But now that it has closed off here, the shear will likely not affect it as much as it has been throughout today. However, if we look at the overall satellite shot here, you can see why this shear has been impacting the system, and it has been struggling to really develop an inner core here. It's because this trough over West Texas here has been imparting southwesterly flow, and this has actually extended south all the way into the northeastern Gulf of Mexico, and as a result, the system is a little asymmetric today overall in its cloud field. As you can see, most of the clouds are generally off to the east of the system. However, this is still a very symmetric core of a hurricane here. This is a Category 1 hurricane right now, and is not expected to intensify quickly anymore, which is thankfully now not the case. And the Category 3 intensity that was looking kind of possible yesterday is pretty much off the table now. I think we can guarantee that. So that's some good news that has come up today. If we look at Mobile radar, courtesy of Mark Nissenbaum at FSU, we can see that the core has indeed developed here, and we do have a ragged appearance of an eye, but it is an eye nonetheless, and it had been struggling all day to close off said eye here. And so this has kind of been a gradual process of convection firing around and trying to tighten up this core and close off the southwestern side. You can still see that the southwestern side is having some trouble wrapping up, but this should gradually tighten if this is able to fend off the shear and be able to come a little tighter or become a little tighter. Then that would warrant some strengthening here, and it would likely become closer to a Category 2 hurricane here. Thankfully, this does not have enough time or good enough conditions to really become anything incredibly powerful here, which is fantastic news. But the rainfall threat still remains, as this has not moved at all, even on this radar frame this afternoon. It has barely moved, moving north currently at 2 miles per hour here, and you can see that all of this very, very heavy rain has been hitting this portion of the coast for the better part of today and yesterday, and now there will likely not be a break until this storm gets out of this region, and it will take a while. If we could look at the National Hurricane Center 5-day cone, or I guess it's now 3-day cone, you can see just how slow this approach is. Keep in mind, this is Wednesday afternoon here. This is tomorrow afternoon, and this has barely moved, and so this is going to barely move until this is Thursday afternoon here, and it is still in Alabama. So this is going to be here for a while, and unfortunately you will be feeling the prolonged effects of the hurricane here. Thankfully it is not as strong as expected, and it has failed to become a stronger hurricane today. However, that does not mean that impacts will be less or will not be as damaging. That's just the wind threat. The main damaging threat is the flooding threat. And if we look at the expected rainfall totals, you can see the swath of 15 or more inches of rain here stretches from the entire Alabama coastline into the Florida Panhandle here, and most of this flash flooding rain here stretches into even the Carolinas. And this is a lot of rain that is going to be falling in a very short amount of time, as this is continuing to just gradually inch its way out of the picture here. And we're really not getting it. We're really in the final stages of forecasting the system. But if we are looking at the hazards here, a primary threat is rain here, and especially in this area. You need to be very aware that this is a ton of rain that is going to fall, and there is likely to be a lot of flash flooding in this area regardless of how strong the system is. And water is far more damaging and far more dangerous than any wind threat here. If we look at the peak surge graphic here, this is another form of water that is going to be impacting this part of the coast here. You can see that the surge values for the Mississippi and Louisiana coastline here have gone down, and this is good. This is still impacting you though. This is 3 to 5 feet of water rises versus 7 to 11 feet of water rises that was predicted previously. So there are still water rises occurring here. This is not a joke. This is still happening. This is just not as bad. And you can see that is really concentrated on to the Alabama and Florida coastline here, specifically the far western panhandle here, and of course, nuisance water rises along this surge-prone part of the coast. So please do be watching that as well. But really, it's focused primarily from the Mississippi-Alabama border all the way to the Okaloosa-Walton County line here, where the intense surge will be occurring. And this is variable because we still don't know exactly where this is going to come ashore. It may come ashore east or to the west of Mobile, Alabama, or it could come to the east here. There's a pretty wide range of solutions here. Obviously, if it was to the east, that would bring most of the surge here into the Pensacola region. If it was to the west here, then it would bring most of the surge into Mobile Bay, and it would likely bring up this surge total from 4 to 6 feet to possibly, 7 or 8 feet here. This is still a unpredictable situation, and this will likely continue to be confusing all the way up until landfall, but we will, regardless, there is a surge risk here stretching from the aforementioned areas, and if you are in a surge zone and you are told to evacuate, please do heed that, as this is still serious. Just because it is a Category 1 hurricane doesn't mean that its impacts will be like that of other Category 1 hurricanes. This is moving very, very slow, and you are already dealing with flash flooding here along this stretch of coast, and you will likely continue to be dealing with surge flooding until this is able to get out of the area. And all of these risks are extremely dangerous, and you need to be taking this very seriously, regardless of category here. Very similar to how Hannah stalled and was able to bring prolonged effects to the far South Texas coastline. This is still a pretty significant hurricane for this area, and this region here along all the way down into the Big Bend region here is a very, very surge prone area and of the coast, and you need to be taking this very seriously. Water is water, and it will be very dangerous when it comes up, and you need to be watching this very closely. All these regions that are marked in red here have already been experiencing water rises, and these will continue to rise as the storm approaches the coast, however slow that may be. And do not forget that there is the flash flood risk. Keep in mind this red here is also just 10 inches of rain or more, and that is equally or still flash flooding that will be occurring within that. And these Totals could go up, they could go down, but you cannot make a gamble on that. You need to be paying attention to your local officials. You need to be paying attention to the evacuation orders that are issued to you if you are in a flood-prone area. Please do be cautious. Please do be safe here. And that's all for now. Thanks for watching.